Hello, hello. It is 8 o'clock or maybe a minute after, something like that. How you doing? Glad to have you with me tonight. We're going to have some fun. We're doing a prophet speak, a little impromptu one. Some stuff just came together. So there's a couple of dreams that my dad has had. One before the pandemic and one quite recently. And he handed me this little thing that he'd done about these dreams. And it really is quite remarkable. Some of the stuff that he dreamt before the pandemic that has now kind of transpired. So a little bit about COVID, the church, Brexit, all kinds of stuff like that that's coming together, and it's such a confirmatory word. So there's a couple of dreams there that's going to be powerful. As well as that, I have the highlights of the main prophetic word from the British Isles Council of Prophets. So I'm going to share with you some highlights from that and tell you where you can go and find it as well, which would be really, really useful. I've just found it a really powerful, confirmatory word, some fresh stuff in there too to be praying into and thinking about, which has really helped me in all that I've been looking at. And of course, we'll have a little bit of music. Always nice to have some music, isn't it? And just to enjoy God's presence. So maybe you want to grab a pad and a pen and follow some of this through tonight, because it's prophetic words and it's stuff to think about and chew on and ponder. And so, well, should we play some music while people are gathering? Let's do that. This is a song called Days of Wonder, all about dreaming. Tonight is all about dreams. So let's get ourselves in the mood by listening to this. Grab a pad and a pen and a coffee, and let's expect to hear God in the next little while.
When the young men see the visions, when the old men dream the dreams, your sons and daughters see the future and speak in words of prophecy. When the earth and the skies are filled with blood and fire, then the days of wonder, the days of wonder are upon us. Then your days of wonder, your days of wonder are upon us. When there's thousands filling stadiums, your glory falling down like rain, the blind are seeing, the lame are walking, the mute tongues singing, the dead are raised. When the rulers of the nations all cry out, how can I be saved? Then the days of wonder, the days of wonder are upon us. Then your days of wonder, your days of wonder are upon us. Days of wonder are upon us. Then the days of wonder, Your days of wonder are upon us.
Ah, I love that. I love that. Always makes me feel sleepy though, that version. That's from an album called Sanctuary, which was just my voice and Andy Green playing the piano. Beautiful, beautiful piano player. And I don't know, you can find it on Amazon, I guess, that one. 10 songs, just piano and vocal. King of King's Majesty, Lost in Your Glory, stuff like that, if that interests you. Well, let's get to some content, shall we? Or should I say, before we start, share the link if you can. If you're watching on YouTube and you know how to share the link, press share. Make sure you're connected to this channel. So, press the subscribe button and get the notifications, all that kind of thing, so that we can stay in touch. So that every time we've got an encounter night that's full of worship, or a prophetic night like this, or a teaching night, then we can stay in touch and you can stay connected. So, I want to play you a video of my dad talking about 2 dreams he's had. Have you noticed my prophetic words about silver surfers arising? My dad's a real silver surfer. So he's been having some remarkable visions and dreams, should I say, and prophetic words. And so I wanted to share them with you because I think they're really important. Now, going with that, with this prophecy, there will be a blog that I'll put out, should be out by the time this program is finishing. And we'll have the link in the details with the program, so you can read the dreams, read some of the points that he's saying, and share it with others too, because I think it's a significant word. Then when we've done that, I'm going to share with you some highlights from the British Council of Prophets word for 2021, and it is just amazing how all the words are lining up this year, and God is kind of setting us up ready for what comes next. So you ready for that? Okay, here we go. Here's my dad. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Here's my dad talking about 2 dreams he's had, one before the pandemic and one just a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're really significant. So let's listen up to what this great man of faith is going to share with us. Here you go. Go for it, Dad.
Hello. There's some prophetical things that I feel I'd like to share with you today. And it's to do with a prophecy that's nearly 2 years old now. And so I'll just introduce it and share it with you and then make some comments. And it's February 2021 now, and despite being in lockdown on and off for about a year, I think it's time to look again at this 2-year-old prophecy, because more and more things are happening that seem relevant, and also because I've just had another similar dream just recently, and I'll share that one too. And so we'll begin with a dream I had on holiday It was on the island of Lanzarote, actually, in March 2019, a year before the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, and more than 18 months before Brexit finally happened and Great Britain broke free of Europe and regained her sovereignty. Now, I seldom get dreams as graphic and detailed, so I wrote it down and shared it. And a verse that comes to mind as I'm doing this is Joel 2:28, and it says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days that your old men will dream dreams." Now, I'm 80 in a few months, so I definitely qualify for that one when I do any dreaming. So here goes. This is how I wrote it down in Lanzarote. One night, I dreamed a dream of Beacon, Britain. There came a parting, a hole in the uniform layer of cloud, and a shaft of brilliance from above arrowed down like a searchlight and moved almost imperceptibly until it picked out and highlighted the small, crowded islands we call Great Britain, and there it stopped. The aperture in the clouds widened and somehow changed until it resembled a lens that, like a magnifying glass, greatly increased the burning potential of the heavenly brilliance as it played over the earth below. At first, here and there, and then in a rapidly multiplying spread, random fires broke out across the nation, as if by spontaneous combustion. "My beacon is lit," said the voice. For generations, heaven had been gathering kindling for the beacon from many nations, many cultures, many religions. And then years of increasingly secularist society and government, followed by a season of confusion, insecurity, and social and economic upheaval as the UK faced leaving the EU and other national challenges. These had rendered the kindling of the beacon tinder dry and ready for heaven to use as an eye-catching burning bush. In every part of British society, more and more people are touched by the brooding brilliance, but the most deeply affected, at least at first, is the visible church of Jesus Christ. "My church is to be the nation's beating heart and its immune system," said the voice. The radical intervention of the brilliance on the church was like jump-starting the heart so that it regained rhythm and flexibility, circulation and functionality. Dry bones were reconnected, were fleshed out, spirit-fueled, and radically realigned as a force to be reckoned with. "I built my church to work like that," said the voice. As the church grew miraculously and in the miraculous, signs and wonders became commonplace, and society was increasingly influenced and affected. But the climate change effect of the brilliance went far, far beyond the visible church organizations and church and the communities they served. The brilliance was an atmosphere, an ethos, which brooded over the entire nation rather than being centered on an organization or movement. People of all ages, all classes, all types, all races, all religions, seemingly at random, were affected. They dreamed dreams or saw visions. They heard words or had overwhelming experiences. Some had a light bulb moment or came to a moment of realization after a long search. Often there was physical or emotional healing accompanying the experience. The common denominator in every case was that each felt that they had had a divine encounter and somehow had met the Jesus of the Bible. The Brilliants jumped religious and cultural barriers so that people of every corner of British society met the King. Soon the spread of the kingdom dwarfed the explosive growth of the church. People of all types and faiths encountered Jesus, from business-suited executives to burqa-clad wives, from boiler-suited welders to bewigged lawyers, from school children to residents of care homes or inmates in prisons. There were people from every possible part of society: street traders, street sweepers, street walkers, and street sleepers. People of every political, sexual, philosophical, or cultural persuasion were affected. But many, because of their cultural background, didn't have much contact with the visible church and didn't go on to do church in the conventional way, though they now tended to instinctively affirm the visible church's views and values. Clusters formed of the family, friends and acquaintances of those touched by the Brilliants, as others they knew sought and found a similar experience for themselves. Electronic clusters with a similar effect formed on social media and spread like wildfire across the nation and beyond. The sale of Bibles jumped, and versions in many languages were downloaded onto Kindles and other screens as people sought to understand what had happened to them. Although the effect of the Kingdom Brilliance did not coalesce into an organization, the changed hearts of so many across society meant that the moral and ethical tone of the nation rose from an all-time low to unprecedented heights. "My bush is burning," said the voice. Winds from the north and west caught up showers of sparks, spreading the fires across Europe and on to encircle the globe. Spiritually, from above, the surface of the globe had resembled a dark night sky with a few glowing planets and a sprinkling of stars, but now more and more points of light, like newly birthed stars, were appearing everywhere, as kingdom fire touched people of every kind. Once again, the spread of the kingdom dwarfed the considerable growth of the visible church across the planet. Now the Brilliance stood over Britain as a column of leaping flames, and the I Am himself arose in the midst of the congregation of Beacon Britain to address the nations of earth. "Come," said the voice. And that is the finish of the Lanzarote vision. That's the text of the vision that I saw and wrote down in Costa Teguise, Lanzarote, in March 2019, nearly 2 years ago. And just recently, as Revive began a tsunami of 21 days of 24/7 prayer, which actually is going to be continued on until the end of lockdown, I started to feel that the fulfillment of the beacon prophecy is already beginning to show in the events and circumstances of our nation and of the church. And although it's very much only the beginning, I feel there is enough taking shape to begin to say, "This is that," to quote Peter's remark from the Joel prophecy on the day of Pentecost. The prophecy begins with a shaft of powerful, brilliant light spotlighting the UK and starting random fires here and there across society, including, especially at first, the church. It was like a concentration of clear light that seemed to affect the kindling in the way that fire is started as sunlight through a magnifying glass. It's perhaps early days for the full Lanzarote Beacon Britain fulfillment, but I feel that there are signs of changes beginning to show in the UK society and church in the following ways. Number one, the brilliance of light is exposing and revealing things across society. Bright light exposes things that have been hidden or overlooked, such as faults, weaknesses, sins and flaws that may not have been so apparent before. And there are many disturbing things that have come to light or been exposed in UK society in recent years. UK culture was already beginning to shake when the turmoil of the Brexit controversy exposed deep national divisions, and then added to this was the mounting national fear and confusion of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's three things we can look at as an example of this. First of all, A, the exposure of things in our society or culture. Mounting numbers of cases of physical or sexual abuse, misconduct or harassment all across society have been increasingly highlighted in the press in recent years. And these cases range from the current exposure and or prosecution of celebrities and politicians and church leaders and the rich and famous. It can range from that to cases of historical abuse by individuals or staff misconduct in care or religious institutions that may go back many years. Also, bullying or sexual harassment at work, which has been a commonplace thing over the years and which for generations has been largely ignored as an occupational hazard, is now being highlighted and legal steps taken to deal with it. The exposure of sex trafficking groups and gangs bringing into the UK slave labour or forced labour, forced workers. These sorts of things have made headlines in this period. Street gangs carrying weapons and peddling drugs, and also random, appalling, horrible acts of Islamic terrorism have added to the climate of fear in recent years. Then, secondly, B, exposure of things not only in our society but in our history. Protest groups have recently highlighted the darker side of British history, objecting to the part Britain played in the world slave trade and seeking to shame the businesses that historically profited from slave labour. These groups also aim to highlight any evidence of current racism infecting or dividing society. Another historical area that has been highlighted recently are the mistakes, the poor decisions and the oppressive actions that Britain may have taken at times in various parts of the world as it sought to rule and administer its widespread empire. It's as if history is being rewritten to highlight the mistakes rather than the successes in our history, and somehow we can't be as secure in our national identity as we used to be. And then thirdly, or C, the exposure of things not only in our history and not only in our society but in our economy. The financial foundation of the UK had already begun to shake before the COVID pandemic hit. Cracks have appeared and weaknesses exposed or are being highlighted in our economy. Interest rates threaten to fall into negative equity. High-profile financial investment fraudsters have been prosecuted and jailed. Banks have been hastily reorganizing themselves, sometimes with government help, and some banks have collapsed. Big businesses have disappeared. Familiar household names of retail chains have gone from our high streets, and the national debt has shot up to wartime levels. Things are being exposed. Weaknesses are being exposed in our economy too. And I think that as heaven turns up the heat, it's like a chemical chain reaction and everything is shaking. And these few examples from our culture and our history and our economy are just the tip of the iceberg. It feels to the average member of society that every pillar and institution of Britain is shaking, and spreading across the population is a growing feeling that nothing and no one can really be trusted. We can add to the examples I've given above to the proliferation of cultural, political, social, racial and gender controversies, which are being highlighted by the media. These are all bubbling up across Britain recently. And also there's the unrest being spread by political moves even to break up the United Kingdom itself. All in all, across the whole nation, there has been a pervasive and a growing atmosphere of insecurity, of hopelessness, of fear and divisiveness. This mounting sense of crisis has revealed many things, bringing all sorts of failings and corruption across society into sharp relief. Such things as political bias and media bias, false news, political spin, lack of integrity in leadership. These have been highlighted in areas such as government, in the media, in science, in politics, in journalism. You can go on and on, can't you? In fact, it's hard to find a section or an institution or a part of UK society that has not had its weaknesses or divisions exposed or been shaken to the core in one way or another. The exposure of the weaknesses of our society has birthed or coincided with a pandemic of fear across the whole population. As the NHS struggles to cope and lockdowns are imposed, fear and isolation causes the nation's stress, depression, mental health problems, even suicides to spiral. Routine health tests, interventions and treatments have been disrupted with serious, sometimes fatal consequences. Even global warming is an international source of fear to all. To me, it's reminiscent of the words of Jesus, who said that in the last days, Luke 21:25, strange things will happen to the sun and the moon and the stars, and the nations on earth will be afraid of the roaring sea and the tides, and they won't know what to do. Verse 26 of Luke 21, people will be so frightened that they will faint because of what is happening to the world. Every power in the sky will be shaken. That's the Passion Translation, Luke 21. Yes, everything is shaking, and as the King James puts it in verse 26, men's hearts are failing them for fear. And this could be an apt description of far too much of the UK population. I think that the ramping up of fear, insecurity and confusion in the UK communal mindset right now is the tinder-dry kindling ready to catch fire of the Lanzarote picture. This pervading atmosphere of uncertainty may lead many people to realize that a rethink is needed of their lives, of their culture, and of their values. Deep insecurity in those who are not yet saved can lead naturally to them seeking and searching for truth. And Jesus said, those that seek find. In fact, it's reported that more and more people are seeking answers in the spiritual dimension. We hear that youth and young adults are looking for spiritual answers and coming to the faith in greater numbers. Even government has changed an earlier attitude in the first lockdown, and they are seeing the value of keeping places of worship open as much as possible to combat the rise in mental health problems. And so, as we're in the throes of societal upheaval, I think that the UK has never been so ready for kingdom come. Or in the words of the Lanzarote picture, about ready for heaven to ignite, fan into flames, and use the UK as an eye-catching, burning bush. So that's society. But the fiery brilliance, secondly, is at work, refining and refocusing the church. In the Lanzarote picture, the first section of society to be deeply affected by the intervention of brilliance from heaven was the church. Lockdowns have drastically affected the church. Restrictions have meant the curtailing or the sharp reduction of worship, witness, mission, and even social action, or some social action. But that restriction has led to innovation across the church. There have been many light bulb moments as buildings closed and alternative ministry avenues opened up. Many are learning new skills to minister in the new circumstances. What has happened is that a great deal of church has been driven online, and that has opened up a vast new mission field across social media, with people that before would never dream of going into a church are now feeling unthreatened enough to make contact online and seek and find spiritual help. As more and more fellowship is now online, the division and barriers of denominations, which have been shrinking anyway in recent years, have all but disappeared. Fellowship can be barrierless, interdenominational, intercity, and even international, and all at the touch of a button. Denominations then and streams are becoming less important and apparent as we all get on with being church in an atmosphere of belonging together. Or as the Lanzarote picture put it in March 2019, electronic clusters formed on social media and spread like wildfire across the nation and beyond. And so the way the Lanzarote prophecy described the transformed church was the radical intervention of the brilliance on the church was like jump-starting the heart so that it regained rhythm and flexibility, circulation and functionality. Dry bones, reconnected, were fleshed out, spirit-fueled, and radically realigned as a force to be reckoned with. And don't forget, fire also purifies. Not only has the church moved into a new area of practical innovation, but pausing the busyness of many meetings has for individual people, especially leaders, given space for them to personally seek God anew for his purpose and direction, as well as his equipping in the radically new season. There's an ongoing spiritual refreshing and repurposing happening for many, often birthed in prayer, prophecy, dreams and visions. And so the Lanzarote picture of the change to the church, so that it could contribute to the beacon destiny, used terms like reconnected, fleshed out, refueled, realigned, regaining rhythm, regaining flexibility, circulation and functionality. And I feel that the ongoing practical changes and innovations the church is making, especially in prayer, plus the rising flow of prophecy of where God is leading us next, are the signs that the Lanzarote change to the church is already beginning to come to pass. Things seem to be accelerating. If all this I've shared about the church and society is true, or not far from the truth, then the next thing to look out for is random fires breaking out across the nation as if by spontaneous combustion. Breaking out across the geographical nation, random fires. Breaking out across our culture and society, random fires, as if by spontaneous combustion. Won't you join me on fire watch at this time? Because I think it's an exciting time to be a watchman, isn't it? Yeah. And so that's the prophecy of Lanzarote, and a few comments on it. But I have had another dream just lately, another picture. And as I begin to feel that I should share an update on Beacon Britain, it was actually then that I had this next dream. And I'll share it with you now, because it is about the current COVID-19 situation. And so this dream was at 3 o'clock in the morning on the 16th of January 2021. And this is how I wrote it down. I was watching a dark landscape. A light appeared over distant lakes between the surrounding hills, and then, like an early dawn, the light shone through silhouetted trees along a hill crest. I stirred myself and began to write. You're glimpsing the first dawning of a new day, said the voice. Mountains took shape, tall places of authority and influence standing about like grim guardian sentinels. They had long been shrouded in darkness, but now they began to gain definition, shape, and character in the growing brilliance of dawn and the reflected light of the lakes and waterways scattered among them. I realized that the waterways were the people of the King. As the light strengthened, silhouetted trees of global online ministries came into sharp relief. I stopped writing and listened a while. Speak, Lord. A ray of brilliant light, like a sunbeam from above, revealed that the air was full of a sort of fine dust or smoke that billowed and danced among the peaks and valleys. Now you can see the plague, said the voice. More light showed how the misty atmosphere was swirling around many cities, towns and villages, billowing along the empty streets of the areas of human habitation that clung to the lower slopes of the mountains. I didn't send the mist, said the voice, but I'll use it and then disperse it. And so it was that the brightening light gradually burned off and dispelled the swirling dust, and eventually people emerged from their dwellings to gather in the streets, spontaneously celebrating the intervention of God's Clean Air Act. Then it began to rain. For the people below in the streets, there were light, refreshing sun showers that caused many to lift their smiling faces in enjoyment. But up high, in the cloud-shrouded peaks, the rain was heavy, and soon rivulets and streams of life-giving water cascaded down the slopes. I remembered that the waterways were the people of the King. The character of the dark, brooding mountains began to visibly change from the top down. As in response to the light and the irrigation, the sterile slopes began to blush green as lush foliage and grasses sprang up to clothe them. That which was dead is coming to life again, I thought, and everything seemed to shine with new life. The voice explained the transformation. I am in the rain and in the rivers. I am in the lakes and the mountains. I am in the trees and the communities. I always was. But now my light has given you a night vision anointing to see what I'm doing in your land and in the world. So watch this space, said the voice. I settled back and mused for some time. It's a wonderful world, I thought, and I think that Great Britain will be a green and pleasant land again. And remember, it's all down to me, said the voice. There, the picture ended. Just a few comments on this dream. I think it could soon be time to see the mountains move and kingdom come, changing the institutions and structures of our nation for the better, from the inside out and the top down. And my response to that thought is, Amen, Father, let your kingdom come. And a thought that came to me as I was about to record this video. In the first chapter of Micah, there's a prophecy that I hadn't particularly noticed before about God moving in judgment and justice to transform the mountains of a sinful nation society. And it sounds a bit like the picture I saw. It's Micah chapter 1 verses 3 and 4. It goes like this. The Lord is coming from his holy place. He will come down and walk on the tops of the mountains. And then the mountains will melt under him like wax in a fire. They will pour down into the valleys like water pouring down a hill. And all I can say is, Amen, Lord. Let the British mountains move as you rest your heavy glory on them. Amen. Amen.
Wow, did you get that? There's a lot there, right? There's a link in the details with this program for you to go to the blog so you can read it. The Lanzarote prophecy from a couple of years ago. Some of the statements in that reflecting on what is now happening globally, you know, the online social media stuff, the church taking on a very different shape, really quite remarkable. And then that recent prophecy at the end. So they're both online. If you want to go read them, share them with other people, that'd be fantastic. And let's just meditate on the Word of God. There was just some real key phrases. Did you catch that? So the next bit is spontaneous fires, spontaneous combustion breaking out in various places. Let's expect places to become hotspots of moves of God's glory and presence as part of what happens next. Wow. Well, look, let's take a pause. Let's play a song, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to share with you some highlights from the British Isles Council of Prophets. Here's a song about dreaming. Have a little listen to this.
I saw a man with a fire in his eyes, talking to thousands, had a dream for the black and the white. Next day he died. But I remember the light in his eyes, like a burning bush in the dark of the night, calling us to fight. He said, I took the hand of God, climbed a mountainside, saw the promised land, let it fill my eyes, lit a raging fire that consumed my fears. Lately I've been dreaming, think that I've been gazing through the eyes of God, through the eyes of God. I've seen your eyes, empty and tired, longing for something to rekindle the ancient fires of all you once desired. Look at your feet, pampered and soft. They haven't climbed to any mountain tops in a long, long while. No wonder it's hard to smile. You should take the hand of God, climb a mountainside, see the promised land, let it fill your eyes, light a raging fire that consumes your fear. Have you been dreaming? It's time you were gazing through the eyes of God, through the eyes of God. It's been a long, long time since I have seen you smile, since the eternal fires of your dreams. You should take the hand of God, climb a mountainside, see the promised land, let it fill your eyes, light a raging fire that consumes your fears. Have you been dreaming? It's time you were gazing through the eyes of God, 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 through the eyes of God.
Wow, me in my younger days. Let's go back a little bit, eh? Oh, love it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed all that. The songs, and then that just half an hour of those two dreams. And I just want to go through some of the highlights of this year's word from the British Isles Council of Prophets, which is a group that I'm part of, and an amazing group of quite remarkable people, some of them wild prophets, and doing remarkable things. But I just thought, I'm not going to read it. I think it's 8 pages long. I'm just going to hook in on some key things that just stood out to me, and then you can go read the whole thing at prophets.org.uk, and the link is in with this program to prophets.org.uk, and the group is coming out with prophetic words all the time and developing hopefully some sense of prophetic integrity in the UK, and you would, I'm sure, know several of the people. Some of them are some of the advisors, and some of the members of the group take part in the Prophet Speak and stuff like that. So you'll be aware of some of these people that are doing this. So here we go, British Isles Council. Prophetic word for 2021, and right at the beginning it says this is a year of uncertainty, and where at times we will feel unsettled and unclear. That's for 2021 now, as if 2020 wasn't bad enough. But you know what, as a leader, that's really helped me, because I face some things that are, I think Sharon Stone put it, it's going to be a year of unpredictability. If last year was unprecedented, this coming year is going to be unpredictable. Not just in bad ways, though there are still going to be some shakings going on, but also in the unexpected blessings and turnarounds and suddenlies of God. But also within all of that, as a leader, as I look at the various things that I'm involved in and where I need to make decisions, and that's always the hard bit, right? When so many things are just unknown. It's okay to say, I'm not sure. I think we need to redeem that phrase this year. And it's okay to say it as a leader to your team, or a team to your leader. What should we be doing about this? I'm not sure. Let's keep walking forward, make the best decisions we can, or make no decisions if we can get away with that. Sometimes that is okay, but sometimes you just have to make the best decision you can, taking into account limiting negative consequences if you make a wrong decision. But I'm not sure. Unpredictable, uncertainty is okay. And I found that just so useful, the way the word started out there. Another part of it saying, don't assume to know what God's going to do. We really do need to be waiting in the intimate strategy rooms of heaven this year, don't we? Another line in bold, and it says, maturity will come out of this great shaking. God is really growing the church up in lots of ways. So let's process with him. Talking of process, I've heard this now so many times. We've featured this concept several times in the Prophet Speak the other week. How long ago was it? Was it a couple of weeks we did 3 nights in a row with the Prophet Speak? And this came out from several prophets, is that we are in a 3-year process. 2020, 2021, 2022. Doesn't mean the pandemic's going to last 3 years. It's not necessarily saying that at all, but there really is a bit of a process going on. And it's written here as a 3-year process of total systemic reform. Now that really lines up with what my dad's just been prophesying from his dream about structures and systems changing. It says here in part 2 of the word, now this is word for the church now in particular, that this will be a year of disruption of structure. The disruption of structure in 2021. 2020 was the year of the disruption of activity, but 2021 is the year of disruption of structure. Expect structures to be being transformed in big ways this coming year for the church. Entire ways of doing ministry and looking at ministry. Not for everyone. I think we can over-exaggerate this. And I just to speak to leaders now that can be very intimidated by, I think I've got to innovate the life out of anything. Nothing can remain the same. I think some things will remain the same. It's like cars, okay? You've got a petrol car over here, you've got an electric car over here. They both look like cars, but actually something is deeply different under the bonnet. And for some places, for many churches, this is me now talking, this isn't in the word, but the change is going to be actually that something different has happened at the core of who we are, even though what we do looks largely the same. I think many churches will continue. In fact, most churches will continue, obviously, with Sunday services and worship and preaching and praying and gathering and singing. Oh, can't wait. What about you? Singing and eating and being in restaurants together. Oh boy, I'm getting myself all excited now. It's not that we've got to look for the wacky in the sense of a spirit of innovation. We only need to genuinely innovate where God is calling us to do so. But let's be aware, certainly for Revive, a big restructuring, a dismantling was going on in 2020, and we're beginning to get the downloads of a sense of blueprint for the way forward in 2021, and then a sense of, I remember I think it was Rachel Hickson was saying there's a sense in which in 2022, we'll get the keys. We'll be able to step fully into some stuff. Loads of good stuff can go on this year. It's not going to be a year without hope at all. But there is a sense of being lined up to really step into acceleration in 2022. And as the year goes on, I know it's only February the 10th. It's only February the 10th, but you can already get a bit of a feel of which way the year is going to go. A couple of other highlights here for the church. The Lord is making redundant whole church structures. There will be some major changes in church structures. Many churches and ministries will be repurposed. It talks about closures of quite a few churches, but it says here, closures will make way for new birth and massive growth. Lots of talk about harvest and massive growth in this word, which I love. It's not so much necessarily that we're always going for something new. Sometimes we've got to get back to what is true, right? And it's true that the church needs to be a combine harvester. Probably more than anything, we need to get back to saving souls, discipling people, and sending them out to save more souls. And lots of just consumerist Christianity gets in the way of us doing those core main things. This is an interesting one. Because this word came out before I noticed this BBC report. It says here, beware of church closures, leaving rural areas of the UK without spiritual provision. And then very soon after reading that, I read a BBC report talking about changes in the Anglican Church, which could well leave lots of rural communities without spiritual kind of certainly there'll be vast changes in the parish setup in some way. I don't know the details. I'm not an Anglican, but that really lines up with this word. Beware of church closures, leaving rural areas of the UK without spiritual provision. Jump back to what I think about that for a minute. It is time to collaborate. Come on, big city churches, let's collaborate. You might be a Pentecostal, charismatic, whatever, big city church. Why don't we learn to collaborate like never before with the Anglican parishes and churches round about? We do it in our region, and it's one of the things I love most, to just work together, not care where the newcomer that gets saved goes. Let's just make sure they're coming into the kingdom, and let's support each other and get the job done. I think there's a massive opportunity here for collaboration if some of the churches that are well-resourced can step up in this time and begin to selflessly collaborate. That's one of the big words for the season, to reach people, because there are going to be communities in the countryside, the rural countrysides of Britain, that are going to could well be, looking at this, without spiritual provision. Digital campuses being built online. I kind of know that just feels really obvious now. Still controversial to some, but I just think that's going to increase, and we're really looking at how we might do that at Revive, and we're just praying about it. The problem is sometimes there's so many things you could do, so it's like, God, which ones do you want us to do, and which ones are just for a season? Carrying on talking about the church in this 2021 word, it talks about the birth of a new fear of the Lord. Now, again, this comes as a real confirmation that's come from so many prophetic people around the world. Even in our worship, we have been in a place singing of the goodness and the love and the mercy of God a lot. That is, you'll find out what God is doing in the church by the songs that the church sings and celebrates around. There is a coming, not that we'll lose that, but there's a coming surge of the fear of the Lord, the awe of God, the fact that he's a mighty warrior. Some of those spiritual warfare things are going to begin to rise up again in the sound of worship that's coming. There's a fear of God coming to the church. Wow. Which, boy, do we need that, right? And then here's an interesting piece in this prophetic word. It's saying that in the context of church, she is yet to give birth. And in this time of labor, listen to this, using pregnancy as a picture of giving birth to a purpose, right? Complications have arisen due to unbelief. I believe many have been in a season of delay, and I believe this speaks into that many of us have found ourselves, I'd include myself in this as I analyze and try and be honest about it, in something of a season of delay. And this word points to it really nice and clearly. You can end up with complications in pregnancy, spiritual now, because of unbelief. Me talking now, not the word. The season of the future belongs to the brave. Church, in this era of the spirit of fear, which is a spiritual demonic thing. Demonic strongholds try to base themselves in fear. That's why you get lots of demonic stuff going on in totalitarian regimes, right? I mean, we could go deep on this for a minute, but we better not. Okay, look, the spirit of fear is just running rampant right now. Let me just look you in the eye and say, the future belongs to the brave. Find courage, find your bravery, find your faith, find belief, soak in the word of God, soak in his love for you. I was talking last night, I had 50 of our tribe members on a Zoom call, and they were from 3 continents, 50 leaders around the world. And I was talking about the fact that, well, I talked about loads of stuff, but one of them was this, looking at the story of Noah, really, as a headline piece. Remember that you're Noah, not everyone else. If you found yourself in that story, you would be Noah. You're God's, you're righteous, you're walking with him, you want to please him, you are the blessed and the favored and the protected, and you're going to come through in full season and full favor to the full promises of God. Always remember this, because when we get tired and discouraged and fearful and anxious, we can start to think, well, I'm just one of the masses. Do you know what I mean? No, you're a favored son. Christians, because of a wrong way of approaching life, can end up like the grumpy older brother of the prodigal son, right? Who's in the home, and as the father says to him later on when he's whinging, you're celebrating for this miserable younger brother that went and just did everything wrong, and now you're celebrating. But the father said to the grumpy older brother, which is what a lot of Christians in church are sometimes like, he says to him, everything I have is yours. In other words, you're favored, you're loved, you're my son. Get your identity right, okay? Get your idea. We need to rise up in this time and not live with continued delay through unbelief. A couple of other phrases here. Copycat approaches to the church will not work in 2021. It's time to get back to the Creator's design for you. What's God's dream for you? What would brave you do as you hear the voice of God and go for it? Let's stop copy and pasting, and let's get back to the voice of God and be super brave, which will quite naturally make us super innovative. All the innovation is will you just be yourself? Right, just be yourself, and amazing things will happen when we walk in that uniqueness. The metrics of the church are going to change. It talks here about success is going to be measured, I would say, I can't remember if it says in here, but I'm going to put it my way. Let's stop measuring success by bums on seats on a Sunday morning. And let's measure success by the mobilization and the deployment of disciples. That's what really matters. Not how big we can gather on a Sunday, but how are we going to reach and be deployed. Or speaking into the worship culture, it talks about clearing the entertainment culture out. There really is a sense of getting back to raw, awe-filled worship. I can't wait to get in a crowd with my keyboard without a mask on, singing and hollering our heads off in the presence of God. It's going to be fun. It's just going to be like the book of Psalms all over again. Worship services will become unconventional and unscripted. I love that. And it goes on with stuff like leaders moving to a much deeper heart connection. There's the collaboration word that I've shared so many times before, and loads of other things. Head to prophets.org.uk and you'll be able to find that word there. Is that okay? It's a fantastic, powerful word. I'll put the link in with this program. What should we do next? Well, just to say that my book, The Divine Reset, should be arriving this week. This is a proof, so you can't have this one. What have I got here? If you go to jaredcooper.net, they should be arriving here at my place anytime soon. So hopefully we'll be signing those and sending them out. If you want a copy of The Divine Reset, I go through 42,000 words of prophecy, God speaking, how to pivot our leadership, churches, teams, family and life into this new season with God. And I just hope that you find it encouraging and powerful. So have a little look. The Divine Reset. You can get it on Amazon too as well. Wow, I think we're pretty much done there. What I was doing last night with the tribe is for our leadership levels, tiers 2 and 3 of the tribe. Tier 1 is a very kind of basic learning level. You get access to kind of 600 modules of teaching and stuff, but more happens for tiers 2 and 3, and we've just started monthly Zoom calls for leaders and stuff like that. And I was talking about how we pivot and prepare our lives for the new season in God. And it was great. I mean, 50 leaders from quite a few countries around the world. Real joy to be with them. And quite a few of those leaders are in tier 3 too, which means their entire team has joined as a team, which is exciting. I think the tribe is one of those innovative things for this moment. 6 months before the pandemic hit, God spoke to me about training people in their homes online. I wasn't very excited about it. Thankfully, just a couple of months before the pandemic hit, we transformed our home to create this studio so that I could broadcast and do other projects from here. Not knowing, now it was like, well, I was like Noah building an ark before I knew it was going to rain, right? And here we are now. This has just been used so much to train and encourage and inspire people. So if you want to jump on board with that, it's like the geographical boundaries has been removed completely. It's easy to have. There were people from Australia on the Zoom call yesterday, and Cape Town and Gibraltar and other places in Europe. Little islands, the Orkney Islands, the Isle of Wight, they were all on there. Great, fantastic friends as we're getting to know each other. I've been in many of their churches, but it's just great to continue getting to know each other. And that's what the tribe is all about. It's not doing leadership lonely, it's doing it together and learning and growing together. So if that interests you, well, here's some information about the tribe. And just remember, as we finish off tonight, there's a couple of links to prophets.org.uk for that 2021 word of the Lord, and also the link to my dad's dreams, those two remarkable dreams about all that God is doing in this time. I found that just so encouraging. Right, let me leave you with a little advert, if I can only find it. Here it is, about the tribe. If you're interested in joining the tribe, have a little look at this and then head to jaredcooper.net and have a look at Join Our Tribe, and come be inspired. Let's grow and learn together. God bless you, and I'll see you next Wednesday, 8 o'clock for Tribe TV. What is the tribe, I hear you ask? Well, it's a global online learning community. There are loads of us around the world interacting, growing, stretching in the things of God together and having fun as we learn. There's 3 tiers in the tribe. Tier 1 is basic access to our tribe zone. It is an online learning zone. We use the same software as Harvard University, so it's great, it's powerful, it's intuitive, and it works really well on everything from a tablet to a phone to a laptop. And you can grow with us in the things of God over everything from leadership to church growth to faith, things of the Spirit, prophetic, the miraculous. It's all there. 500 modules of audio, video, e-courses and stuff like that. As well as that, you get a private Facebook group where you can interact with Vicky and I, and we can be growing in the things of God together. Tier 2 is all of that, but it's for leaders. It's our global leadership tribe. And so it has a lot more leadership content as well. You get 4 books the moment that you join sent to you, and then you will get every book I write in the period of your membership sent to you free of charge. We want to invest in leaders, and so it's much more interactive at tier 2. Tier 3 is where 10 leaders in one team can join together so you can learn and grow. It is a brilliant resource to give to all of your team. You don't always want to lose them as they head off to Bible school. You want to train them right where they are in a training community, and that's what this is. So if Tier 3 interests you, have a little look at that. Let me show you some testimonials of what people are saying about their life and learning with the tribe.
Hey there, it's Roma Waterman here from Melbourne, Australia. I just want to say I'm amazed at the amount of resources that are in Tribe and the fresh content that's constantly being added. I say this with complete truthfulness. I think Pastor Jared Cooper is one of the best teachers in leadership and the prophetic and creativity that I have heard in the world. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you sign up and be part of such an amazing community.
Hi, my name's Dave Mallender. I'm the pastor of Grace Church Bridlington, and we connected with the tribe because we knew a lot of the people, and the voices that we heard were encouraging and inspiring. A lot of prophetic voices that helped us and guided us. It helped us to feel like we were part of the global picture and not just our little part of the jigsaw. But above all things, we learnt two specific things: practical and spiritual. And the practical things, that we have taken principles from the tribe and applied them to our church, which means we manage it better, we present it better, we make it look better and sound better. And the practical principles have been brilliant, but there is also the spiritual principles of apostolic anointing. And as we've listened and applied spiritual principles into our church, we've actually seen the church start to grow. And we believe that we're about to hit the second wave of growth from connecting to the tribe. So we want to say God bless you. Thanks for doing what you're doing, and encourage you to get involved if you can with the tribe.
Hi, I love the tribe because it's a place of the prophetic, it's a place of fun, and with a healthy dose of the practical included as well. There's a whole wealth of resources on there that will keep you going for years, and on such a range of subjects that you could do Bible school in your pyjamas if you wanted to. And where else could you get an international apostle like Jared answering your questions? It's just brilliant. So if you ever feel a bit like Elijah and thinking, oh, poor old me, I'm the only one left who's been zealous for God, then you can just log into the tribe community and discover, no, actually, God's reserved a whole remnant of people who are there, ready and waiting to encourage each other on and do great things for God's kingdom. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, come over and join us. It would be lovely to meet you.
Isn't that incredible? Head to jaredcooper.net and come on, join this family of people growing in the things of God, growing in the Word, growing in the Spirit, and enjoying this journey of walking in God together. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to make it up as you go along. Come and join the tribe, and let's enjoy life together.